Hi horror fans, it's time for more of Midnight's Midnight Mini Reviews, filmed in glorious daytime Technicolor. Yeah, in an ideal world, I'd love to do these videos actually at night, at midnight, in the dark, with a torch shining onto my face for full effect, or even better, I'd do them in the same style that old guy at the beginning of The Fog tells his stories. I'd have a little pocket watch, and I'd close it up and go, time for 7 more mini reviews before midnight. But no, can't do that. For one thing, I don't really live close to a beach, so I've got to settle for doing this at 9 o'clock Saturday morning while the kids are still in bed, and I've got a relatively quiet house. So I like to do this type of video every now and again. It's just a chance for me to get it out there as to what random shit I'm watching on the various streaming platforms, a chance for hidden gems to get a little bit of love on the internet. Also a chance for me to tell you what absolutely not to watch. So I'm going to take these in the exact order in which I watch them, which means we'll begin with this one. This is a sci-fi horror film that has a similar sort of setup to Interstellar. You've got this ship that's humanity's last hope, basically. It's trying to find a new planet because Earth is dying of pollution or something. But the main characters, and there's not many of them, they wake up unexpectedly from their cryosleep because there are now humanoid monsters on board somehow. And I was a little bit nonplussed during the first half of this because the whole film looks quite grungy and cheap, and the set design isn't particularly great, and I couldn't really get into the action that much. And I thought the whole film was just going to be like a haunted house film, really. You know, monsters, humans going at it, we'll get a few kills, and then we'll get the credits at the end. But the second half of the film surprised me because we get a lot more story and twists than I was expecting, and this film finishes really strong. I was really enjoying the story by the time we got to the end of it. As a story, this film is really good. As an action spectacle, it's really kind of just lacking inspiration. I didn't really enjoy any of the action scenes or the kills. The characters weren't particularly great either. If this was a novel, I suspect I would have enjoyed it a lot more. As a movie, as it had its pros and cons, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. Just bear in mind, though, that as well as being a big horror fan, sci-fi is also one of my favourite genres. So when I give a sci-fi horror film just 3 out of 5, be wary. But I thought this film was all right. I should probably give it a second chance, but this time be more awake during the first half. But I suspect that I probably won't watch this one again. This is a film which only came out on Netflix quite recently, actually, and it got a bit of positive attention at the time, from what I can remember. I wanted to see it because it's got Noomi Rapace in it, who I absolutely love in the film Prometheus, but I've never seen her in anything else apart from that, so this was the chance for me to see her in something else, finally. The story takes place in the middle of this fictionalised war. It's never said exactly where in the world we are, but it feels like Northern Europe. It feels like that area in and around Finland, Russia, Ukraine, ironically, Scandinavia, that neck of the woods, because there's lots of ocean near where this story is taking place, and the weather is really, really cold. So we follow characters who are on the losing side of this war. Things are not going well, and they've only got one more gambit left, which is to get 5 or 6 soldiers together into a little group and get them to carry this biological weapon into enemy territory, set it off, and that could change the whole tide of things. But the only safe way to get there is to cross this area of ocean, which is frozen solid, and to do so in the dead of night. It's very dangerous, this section of the ocean, because this ice is extremely thin. The characters have got to skate over it, otherwise they'll fall straight down into the water. So they set off in the dead of night, and after a slow opening, once our main characters are on the ice, this is a really exciting film from that point onwards. There's tons of tension, threats from everywhere. You've just got this massive open landscape in the dead of night. It's quite a beautiful film to watch, with the one caveat that the ending is a little bit tacked on. We get this last 10-15 minutes that's set in a different place altogether, and I kind of feel like that maybe wasn't the way to finish this thing off. I would have just set the rest of the film on the ice. I'm not sure if a second viewing would change my mind on that, but this film was very, very close to being something that I would want to hunt down on Blu-ray and add to my collection. As it is, I'm not quite sure I'm there with this one. It's a very, very good film. If you've got Netflix, absolutely check it out if you've already paid for your subscription. I think the title might come from the idea that these characters are sort of scuttling across the ice like crabs in the black of night, maybe, or possibly this operation was just called Operation Black Crab, and I just can't remember. But this is really good. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. And when it comes to Noomi Rapace, she is now 2 for 2 with me. Every time I do one of these videos, there's always one complete turkey, and sadly we've arrived at that point today with Backwoods. This is about a group of colleagues who are on some kind of team building day out in the woods. They're going to play paintball with each other or something, but they come across this community of outcasts who are not particularly pleasant people. Think of the villains from the Wrong Turn remake and you're halfway there. So this film is essentially one group of characters trying to survive the attentions of another group of characters in the woods. But it's just not done very well. That the story isn't plotted very well. I just found it really boring. The dialogue's atrocious. I'm not quoting word for word here, but this is the sort of dialogue you get in this film. This should be a great weekend. Yeah, if you can keep your mind off Linda's ass. No promises, dude. You know, stuff like that. And once the shit hits the fan, the characters just act like complete wusses for the most part. They get captured ridiculously easily, and then they escape because the film needs to, and then they're sort of captured again. And it's just really tedious watching this whole thing play out. There's like a really awkward Mexican standoff at one point with bows and arrows and guns, and I'm just thinking you could just shoot the villains right here if you wanted to, but you're not because you're just complete idiots. By the end of the film, I'm just feeling really frustrated. Mark Rolston plays one of the villains, which is sort of a bonus for the movie, but bonuses in this film are few and far between. From what I can remember, there was at least one female character who was very impressive. I remember thinking, I wish she could have been in better horror films, but on the whole, take my word for it, this is one to avoid. I'm going to give this one 1.5 out of 5, which I think is being quite generous. So don't forget the name of this film, Backwoods. 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 I'm pretty sure this is a Shudder film. It's also a foreign language film, possibly set in Croatia or Hungary or somewhere like that. It's not important. It's a zombie film, although the word zombie is not used in the film. So there's basically some kind of disease that's taking over the world, and it turns people into drooling, bloodthirsty savages that want to eat other people. So basically zombies. They're more the fast-moving type, I'd say. And there's also a twist in this film that the zombies, once they've fed on someone, they'll go into this like paralyzed state for like 25 seconds where they'll just look something like this. And they'll be docile during that period, which sort of gives the protagonists a little advantage that they can use at certain points of the film. So there's one moment where there's like a long corridor and 6 of the zombies have just fed, and so they go into this like 25 seconds of stasis, and that gives the characters a chance to duck in between them. But all the time they're thinking, oh God, the 25 seconds are going to be up fairly soon. So I quite liked this, and it's actually quite realistic, because if zombies were real, if they were real, surely they couldn't just feed permanently 24/7. They would have to sort of squeeze the food out of somewhere, you know. I'm not saying that that's what these zombies are doing during that 24 seconds. I don't see any food coming out of their paws or anything like that, any shit coming out or anything like that. But it was just a new thing. It was original. It was a good idea. So the movie is mainly based around this one character. She's a single mother, and she's got this job as like a building supervisor at like a massive building that's like a community centre or something. And on the night that everything goes to hell, she takes her daughter with her to work because she can't get a babysitter or something. Her life's not going great, but she's doing her best. So throughout most of the movie, she's got to defend this community centre from the infected getting in. And the film's very, very well made. Lots of scenes that are extremely high in the tension stakes. Lots of good set pieces. It's filmed very, very well. Feels like a film made by somebody who knows their stuff when it comes to horror, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one all the way to the end. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. Again, similar to Black Crab, not quite good enough that I would want to buy it, but I certainly had a really good time with it. If you like zombie films, you need to check this one out. It's not like there's an endless supply of great zombie films out there, so I'm definitely very positive about this one. Virus 32, it's called. The title of this film is a little bit misleading, actually, if this is the first time you've heard of this. Essentially, this is sort of another zombie film, or at least it's a film about another infectious disease which is sweeping across America, turning people crazy. We follow this boyfriend and girlfriend, and they decide to get out of Dodge. The boyfriend has access to a private plane, so he shoves his girlfriend onto this plane, and the idea is that the plane's going to take her to safety on this small island where the boyfriend is originally from. He decides to stay behind in America because he's the journalist and he wants to be in the thick of it. He wants to cover all the carnage going on, which is not the smartest decision. What gripped me about this film, though, in the first 10-15 minutes is the fact that the girl, I forget her name, she doesn't want to go back to this island where she's clearly been before because she doesn't like the family of the boyfriend. She's had a run-in with them before. They scare her. The memory of them is not great for her. She's really on edge at the idea of going to this island. So I was thinking to myself, oh, what horrible place are we going into here that the boyfriend seems completely oblivious to. But once we get to the island, things start to go downhill for the film. We find out that actually the girl is originally from this island as well, which definitely changes the fabric of the movie. I thought she was going into some alien place that was just felt completely off to her, but apparently no, she's from there as well. The movie just doesn't tell you that for the longest time. And in the second half, the film's just devoid of ideas. It becomes a case of, okay, we've got this one villain who's being an arsehole and he starts killing people because everybody else doesn't fall into line with his ideas of how to survive an outbreak. He tries to form a militia or something, and there's various arguments about what to do should the virus hit the island, which it does about 20-30 minutes from the end, just to raise the stakes. But I've kind of lost interest by that point, and I was half dozing my way through the rest of the film. So this one sadly didn't hit the spot for me after a promising opening as well. I was really intrigued by what was going on with this boyfriend and girlfriend, the private plane and the island and stuff, but just went nowhere. And I can only give this one 2 out of 5, which I actually think is being extremely generous. This is today's hidden gem. I watched a trailer for this about 3 years ago and then just completely forgot about the film. But I watched it just this last week and I had a great time. So this takes place at some kind of water slide park, and a group of high schoolers turn up for their spring break or something like that. But there's a killer on the loose. He's picking these kids off one by one, but they don't know it because the killer sort of hides the body every time he kills somebody. It feels like just a generic slasher for at least the first half of it, which is fine. I was still enjoying it when it was just that, but towards the end of this film you get this amazing set piece that goes on for like 10-15 minutes. It's like incredible. So basically, and this isn't a spoiler because I'm pretty sure that you see this in the trailer, this is why I was intrigued about this film in the first place. The killer gets these 2 blades or swords or something, but they're extremely sharp, and he shoves them through like the tunnel of the water slide, but crossways like that, and sticks them so they're completely jammed, that you can't move them easily. So if you think how fast somebody goes down a water slide with hardly any clothes on, they're going to get dissected going into these blades in the tunnel. They don't know that they're there, otherwise why go down the slide in the first place? So from the minute that the killer sets these blades up, the amount of tension in the film is unbelievable, because I'm thinking, oh Jesus, what the hell is going to happen the following day when all these kids go swimming? There's like 20-30 of them. The blades are only in this one tunnel as well, and there's like 3 different tunnels, so it's possible that some of the swimmers going down this thing, I mean, all the tunnels are sort of twirly and stuff going in and out of each other. Some people will be lucky, some people won't, but the carnage that happens is just unbelievable. This is the very definition of carnage candy, what you get in the last 20-30 minutes of this film. It sort of reminds me of Piranha 3DD insofar as the fact that it takes place in a water park and there's a bit of comedy going on, lots of women in bikinis and stuff. But this film is way better, mainly because of this one set piece towards the end. It's just incredible. There's body parts falling down the slide, there's confusion, there's chaos. Nobody knows what the hell's going on because people are just dying and nobody knows what's causing it. And at one point, this guy runs up to the top to tell people, no, don't go down the slides anymore. But the people at the top don't believe him. They're like, oh, you're just talking shit. And they grab him and throw him down the slide. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. And it's just brilliant. The film finds a way for this action to be prolonged before people just stop going down the damn slide. And at one point, 3 people go down it at once, like all holding on to each other. And it's fantastic. I just had a big grin on my face watching it. I've not seen something this original for quite some time. You know, show me something like this. Okay, it's not the most intelligently, you know, it's not a film that's going to win Oscars. It's a very low form of cinema, you could argue, but it's just really fun. As a horror fan, I found it incredible to watch. I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5, and the only reason I'm not giving it even more is the fact that I think the rest of the film, away from this one brilliant set piece, needed more work. The film's only 72 minutes. I think it should have been bulked up a little bit more, a bit more work on the character drama stuff, which is fine as it is, but more could have been done there, and maybe a few more good kills away from the water slide would have been nice, but this film was still an absolute pleasure to watch. It is the best film for me being talked about in this video, and it's the only film in today's video that I'm probably going to buy a Blu-ray for, so 4 out of 5, highly recommended. So I've probably left the most famous film for last today. I think this and Pandorum are the only two films in this video that got cinematic releases. I was really looking forward to this. I thought the trailer was really good. This was James Wan's return to horror after doing things like Aquaman. But I think I got the wrong end of the stick about what kind of movie this was, because I was expecting something more along the lines of Insidious or The Conjuring, and I ended up getting like a weird kind of almost action horror film, especially when it gets to the second half of it. I also think the film gives away way too many of its secrets early on. There's a scene right at the start of this which is sort of like a teaser for what's to come, and I just feel like it's a scene that's beneath James Wan. It's like, we don't need that, you know. Just open the film with Annabelle Wallis's character, the main character, and let us discover the mystery naturally as we're going along. I always felt like this film is giving me... I felt like this film is putting me 2 steps ahead of the plot, when I didn't need to be. I just wanted to be more in the dark as we're going along. It does have some good things, you know. Annabelle Wallis is always very watchable. The soundtrack to this is very good. Some of the action that you get later on is enjoyable, I will admit. That there's one scene where the main villain takes out what feels like half the cast of Prisoner Cell Block H, and it's a lot of fun, but I'm only going to give this one 2.5 out of 5 on the whole. Pros and cons with this, and I was expecting a bit more, I must admit. For James Wan, that's disappointing, 2.5 out of 5. You know, if this was some young buck doing his first movie, I'd have been like, oh, 2.5 out of 5, great start, kid, you know, keep working at it. But as it is, yeah, I don't know, I was a little bit underwhelmed on the whole. I wouldn't go as far as to call the movie disappointing. Probably it's just a case it wasn't quite for me, but for some people, there will be plenty to enjoy with this. Right, that brings us to the end of today's video. Aqua Slash is absolutely my one highly recommended film. I'd also say give Black Crab and Virus 32 a chance as well. The only one you should absolutely avoid is Backwoods, and hopefully I'll be back to do another video like this in the months ahead. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.